Hi, I'm Clara Rose, and this is Influence Matters, the show where each week I share tips, tricks, tools, resources, hacks, secrets, whatever you want to call them, to help people just like you to strategically and intentionally cultivate their influence. Because we all know that influence is going to lead to more leads for our business, ministry, or cause. Before we get started today, of course, I want to take just a second to say thank you to Rosedale Publishing, who sponsors the show. They're an author-centric publishing service. And also, of course, a special shout out to our friends at Tampa Bay Multimedia and WeBeam TV for making this show possible. So thank you. Let's get started, shall we? You know that I like to start each week with a question from a viewer. So today's question is, help, I'm so stuck. I recently heard you say, work smarter, my friends, and I know you were talking about tools. As I start looking for tools, I'm overwhelmed by my options. Do you have a list of best tools so I can just avoid the research? So stuck. Well, so stuck, I have been in your shoes. I have been so stuck. When you start looking for a new great tool, there's so much in the marketplace to choose from. It can be easy to get stuck in that whole analysis paralysis where we just keep looking at tools. So we have the best intentions of actually using one of the tools or 10 of the tools, depending on your nature, but it's so overwhelming. How do you know that you're making the right decision, the right choice? What if you choose the wrong one? It can be a little intimidating, actually, a little scary even. So today we're going to actually talk about tools. We're going to tackle some of those questions, especially for the newbie who's just getting out there, just getting started. It can be super overwhelming. So absolutely, let's talk tools. Okay, first we're going to talk about the importance of the right tools. Working smarter and not harder. The right tool for the right job is so essential. So here's a good example for you. We're going to actually tweet this out, but of course you wouldn't use a screwdriver to set a nail, and you wouldn't use a hammer to set a screw. So let's tweet this out, shall we? You don't set a screw with a hammer, and you don't set a nail with a screw gun. The right tool for the job makes everything easier. Work smarter, my friends. You can hop over to Twitter and just shout that out at clararose.com. Say hello to me, will you? Okay, let's get started working on some tools. I like to call these foundational tools. These are the things that everybody needs. So whether you have a business yet or you're just getting started, these are things that you all will need in the beginning stages. Foundational is like the bottom row. Number 1, your domain name. Number 2, everyone needs an email address. Number 3, we got to talk web hosting. Of course, number 4 is great graphics because those are important. And number 5 is our social management. So our social media management to be exact. All right, so it's not a long list, but let's get started on the first one. Okay, let's talk domain names. Now, there is a ton of places that you can go and buy a domain name. So just a few of them: Cheap Domain, Bluehost, GoDaddy. There's many more. HostGator. I mean, actually, even your web developer will sell you a domain name. I think the important thing to remember is that you need to be the owner of your actual domain name. For instance, if you bought from a web designer, they might actually own your domain name. If they bought it on your behalf, but they bought it through their account, they actually retain the ownership of that. So you need to be careful. So just for an example, what if you had a small hosting company and one day they went out of business? Somebody got hit by a bus. Somebody got a divorce and moved out of town. Who knows? Life happens, right? Things happen. So what if they suddenly are gone and you no longer have access to your domain? A little scary, isn't it? So just think ahead, plan ahead, and own your own domain. So these are just a few places that you can go, but a pro tip for you is don't forget that your domain name can also be the name of your book or your book series. Just one more way that you could use domain names to your favor. Okay, who do I like best? So I get this a lot from people. Who do you like best, Clara? My preference is to get them from GoDaddy. There's a few reasons. I've been with them since they opened practically. They have great 24/7 customer service, easy to use, so it's one of my go-to places for domain names. They are also a sponsor of Weebing TV, which is awesome, right? Because that's who's sponsoring right here today. They are my go-to for a lot of things, but definitely for domain names. I can easily go in and point my domain name wherever I'd like, but I can also call them if I'm stuck and say, okay, I really want to do this with my domain name. They'll either show me how to do it, or so that I know that have that knowledge, which is my preference, or they'll literally just do it for you. So if you don't have a lot of time on your hands, you'd rather someone just do it for you, they will do that for you. Just a great place to get your domain and own it. Ownership's important. Okay, I'm not going to beat that one to death, but just remember what I said about it going away and you not having access. Super important. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about email addresses. Now, I'm not going to stand on a soapbox about this, but I just want to point out that there are a couple of places that you can get email addresses that it makes good sense. There are lots of places you can get an email address that it doesn't make good sense from a professional perspective. So let's talk about a couple of them. First, Microsoft Office 365. So this is a great place where it's actually an exchange service. You can just log right in online and have access to your stuff. Or you can go with Google Gmail Suite, which is the same thing. You can go in, just run by a different company, obviously. You can go in and have access from anywhere. It's not tied directly to the computer that you have. And of course, they're easily forwardable to your Outlook if you like Outlook, or your phone so that you can access it on the go. So you're not tied to going in to the Outlook that lives on top of your desktop, which not so much anymore. People are doing that, but it used to be that was an issue. So we're going to give you a quick pro tip and then we'll dive into the difference between these two and what I think. So pro tip, at Hotmail, at Gmail, and at Yahoo, they are not professional looking email addresses. I'm often surprised by the emails addresses that I get from people who are professionals, and it's at Hotmail or at Gmail or at Yahoo, and I think, spend the $5, my friend, and get a professional email address. They're not expensive. If you worked for Coca-Cola, say Clara worked for Coca-Cola, would my email address say Clara at Gmail? No, it would say Clara Rose maybe, at Coca-Cola, right? Because that's their brand. So it just doesn't make sense because it's so affordable. It doesn't make sense to not have a professional email address. Now, I may not be the only one that looks at the email and say, oh, they have an AOL. Does AOL still exist? Surely not. It makes me think differently about the professionalism of that person. I know that I can't be alone in that. So just food for thought for you, my friend. Okay, let's talk about my preference. I use both, actually. I have Microsoft Office that pulls in for one of my email addresses that I've been using for a lot of years. I like the convenience of being able to log in, but a number of years ago I was forced to start using Google, the Gmail suite, when I was the president of the Association for Talent Development. They only used the Google email. It's like, okay, I need to learn how to use it. But once I got in there, I learned to love it. Now, I don't love that they spy on me. I'm just sure they do. I don't love that piece, but I love the tools. And I find more and more of my customers, my clients, they are also using like Google Drive. So it's easy for us to get our files back and forth if we're working on a developmental edit for their book. So if you cornered me and said, which one, Clara? I would say, go with the Gmail suite. It's going to have everything that you need to run your business. Okay, a little bit of a soapbox there. Let's move on and talk about web hosting. Now, web hosting is where your website's going to live. It's going to be where maybe a landing page lives. We'll talk about that in a second. But everyone needs web hosting. So let's talk about a couple of them. So you could have a WordPress.com. You could have a WordPress.org. More on that in a minute. You could have it at Bluehost or GoDaddy or HostGator or any other number of places where they'll actually host, where your website will literally live online. So the pro tip, of course, is that you could host more than just your website. You could host a landing page for your next book or book series as well. But today we're talking specifically about hosting, web hosting for your website. Now, once again, there are small companies out there that will host for you. You just pay them a fee and they're going to manage it and take care of it for you. So again, the downside to that might be if they went away tomorrow, would you lose access to your website? That's worth considering, isn't it? So whether you have someone doing it for you or you're doing it yourself, I highly recommend a self-hosted site. Now, people might argue that it's too much work, but I'm telling you, you have 100% ownership of it and control of it, which I think is super important. So WordPress.com, they're actually hosting it for you. It doesn't cost you anything. So often a new business owner will hop on there thinking, oh, this is free, this is awesome. And they build right there on WordPress.com. So the downside is they own it and they control it. So if they decide to shut it down for some reason, you don't have any recourse to that. You could, of course, back your stuff up and you could reload it, but I'm just saying there's something to be said for ownership for yourself. Now, Bluehost, HostGator, GoDaddy, all of those offer a self-hosting or a shared hosting, really, where you can host your website right there. Your web designer can have access and they can hop in and work on it. They can load WordPress, which comes from WordPress.org, where it's just a free, open source, downloadable. It's right there in your Bluehost or your GoDaddy. So why not own your control? It's really about the control of what happens with your website. All right, so let's talk about what my preference is. Of course, you probably would have guessed by now that my preference is GoDaddy. So I love the self-hosted WordPress site that they offer. Gives you 100% ownership and control of your site. I can log in at any time and see what's going on with my site, and also give access to my web designer who can go in and work on my site as well. But I have 100% ownership. If his company goes away tomorrow, I can bring in somebody else. Not that I don't love him. He's awesome. Frank's awesome. But if he goes away, if he retires, if he moves, I still need access to my website. And I love that I have 100% control over it. I might have mentioned that already once or twice, but so important. If you don't have control, someone else can take it down without your permission. That's never good. Okay, let's move along and talk about one of my favorite things to do for the brand new newbie is to help them create graphics. Creating graphics is super important for your new business or for your book or for whatever it is you're trying to do online. Good graphics are really important. Now, you might be a graphic designer and yay you, but if not, here's some options that you could look at. Let's talk about creating graphics. Okay, Canva.com, Canva.com. You may or may not have heard of it, but it's an awesome website where you can, if you'd like to have the free account, you can, and build any graphics that you'd like right off of the templates that they already provide for you. Or you could use Microsoft Publisher, and that comes with your Word, your Microsoft products. It's super simple to use, and when you download the graphics from there, They're really high quality and you could use them most any place, especially online. I've even used them on book covers. So it's that versatile. Great tool. It's going to come for free with your Microsoft, so you don't have to worry about purchasing something extra. And then, of course, the Adobe Photoshop, which I totally wish I knew how to use. There is a learning curve to it. I've dabbled in it, and for a number of years it was quite pricey, and I just wasn't willing to spend the money on it. But now, for like $29 a month, I can have a subscription to it. And so I may take that leap and learn Photoshop, just because all the layering and cool stuff you can do with it. It's probably a huge time suck for me, but I think I'm gonna go learn how to do that. In the meantime, if that's not you, you're not intrigued or excited about the idea of creating your own graphics, of course, if it's not in your wheelhouse, hire it out. It's better to spend the money and have good graphics from a professional than to have really poor quality graphics that you tried to do yourself. However, Canva.com has a wonderful resource that we're going to talk about now, and it, of course, is my preference. Canva.com. So hop on over there when you have a minute and check them out. The free is going to give you everything that you need. The pro, for like $14.95 a month, is going to give you all of the bells and whistles that are extra, like pro pictures, tons of free templates, all sorts of really great logos designs and presentations and flyers and cards and business cards. Anything that you can create anywhere that you need a graphic for, they have a template for it. And all you have to do is say, oh, I'm going to do a logo. Click on logos. It's going to take you to tons of options, hundreds and hundreds of options. If you have the pro account, all of those pictures are free. If you have the free account, most of the pictures are free. So you have to decide whether that's worth the $15. For me, it's totally worth the $15 a month to always have my pictures in the pro for free. Another thing that the pro account does, which I love, is it lets you put in your brand. So all of my brand colors, my brand fonts are already right in my account. So at the click of a button, I can change something to match my brand right down to the hex color number. It's perfect for me. Also, I can drop in, with just clicking and dropping in new text, it's automatically going to default to my favorite font that I use for my business. If I don't like that one, then I'll just do the drop down and pick from, 500 others or whatever's in there. You can also create colors as you go on the fly, regardless of which account you have. I just like the pro because of the extra tools it gives you. So definitely Canva.com is the easy way to affordably create your very own graphics for your business. Now, if you've been with me before, you've heard me talk about your one sheet. Remember, that's that one page that you have that if somebody wants to know more about you because you're going to come speak or you're talking about your book, all of your contact stuff is on one page in a graphic manner. So this is a great place. I send all of my authors over to Canva to create their one sheet. You can even do a mock-up of your cover for your graphic designer, for your book cover, your graphics that go inside your book, your epigraphs, your icons, whatever you need to create to help sell your book. All of those can be created in Canva. Ship them over to your graphic designer if you'd like, or I've even published a few books with authors that used it directly out of Canva and they turned out beautifully. So it's a great tool if you haven't checked it out. That's my preference, and I say absolutely go check them out. All right, let's move right on. Let's talk about social management. Now, what is social management? Social management is how you manage your social media sharing. So you could call it social media management. Now, of course, there are great services out there. You can hire somebody that can help you with it. If you have lots of social media that you want to do, it's not a bad idea to have someone to manage those pieces for you. You can affordably hire a company to do that. Or if you have an extra body in-house who's tech savvy, maybe somebody who's a little younger, they would probably jump on the opportunity to do some social media management for you. Now, if you are a solopreneur or you don't want to hire or don't have the ability to hire someone to do those pieces for you, there are tools created just for you, my friend, and we are going to talk about a couple of them. Let's talk about what you can easily get your hands on and start with right away. Hootsuite, that's hootsuite.com, is a great place that you can sign up for a relatively low monthly cost, and it lets you put in all of your social media links, all of your social, like your Facebook and your Twitter and your all LinkedIn, all of those, Instagram, and it lets you schedule in advance all of your social media posts. So you might go in once a week and create them in Canva, and then hop over to your Hootsuite and drop them into the schedule and say, I'd like this one to go out on Monday at 3, and this one to go out at Tuesday at 4, this one to go out on Wednesday at 1. Whatever it is that you set for a schedule for yourself, you can go in and pre-schedule those. Now, you might say, but Clara, I could go right into Facebook and schedule. Why, yes, you can. The upside to something like Hootsuite is you can go in and do all of your scheduling in one place and send it to multiple places at the same time. So for instance, if Monday is motivation day, you put it for 9 a.m., it can simultaneously go to your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter and your LinkedIn, all those places all at once. Kind of like magic. Cool tool, not very expensive, pretty user-friendly as well. Okay, buffer.com. So there's another one I've actually used in the past, and I quite enjoyed it. So Buffer will let you also do the same similar thing as Hootsuite. They're set up a little bit differently, but they seem to be very user-friendly and they're really affordable. So it's just a place to go and manage your social sharing in much the same fashion you might with Hootsuite. The biggest difference between the two is Hootsuite puts it all into a calendar-looking thing, so it might have a familiar feel to you. That's where you can also monitor people's responses and things like that to what you're putting out there. Easy way to keep track of what's going on in multiple places all at the same time. So then, of course, we're going to talk to you about Meet Edgar, because Meet Edgar is newer on the scene for sure. They've only been around a few years, but really, really powerful. It gives you a place to do the same thing, throw things into a calendar, so that they can go out to multiple places all at the same time. They have 2 different levels. One that's, I think it's a $19 level. It gives you 3 or 4 different channels, I think. And then you have the pro version or the regular full version. I think that's $49 a month, and that's unlimited social media outlets. So if you have a ton of them or you're managing a ton of them, you'll want the $49 value for sure. So you might say, all right, Clara, of those 3, what do you prefer? So my preference, of course, is meetedgar.com. I love Meet Edgar because it lets you do something unique. It offers the unique ability to create a one-time share or a never-ending sharing of sorts. What do I mean by that? Well, Edgar has buckets. So when you go into set up your Meet Edgar, it lets you choose your schedule. You can say, I want something to go out on Monday at 9. Which bucket should it pull from? Well, I might have that be Motivational Mondays. So I have a bucket, if you will, of just Motivational Monday posts. And so each week when I do social media, I can go and drop in a brand new social media post that I created. Guess where? Over on Canva. Drop it into Monday bucket. Not the coming Monday, but the Monday bucket. And here's why that's important. If I have something coming up that is going to expire or go away, I can tell it, run this one until this date and then drop it from rotation. If I don't tell it that, it will just keep running it on an ongoing cycle. What do I mean by that? Every time you put a new ad into the bucket, Meet Edgar's going to go, he's a little octopus, kind of cute, going to go to your social media sharing Monday bucket and see what's new. He's going to pull the newest and post it for you and then recycle it to the bottom of the pile. So once that's in there, you can have a never-ending loop. Just keep adding more content to those Motivational Mondays and voila, you never run out of social media sharing going on. Now you still have to be social, of course, go in and check on them. respond to people, share things, thank people for sharing your stuff. Social media is, of course, intended to be social by nature, so you need to be social. But the actual posting of it, great value for the busy solopreneur or entrepreneur who's looking for a way to free up just a tiny bit more of their time by using a social media sharing management tool. And I recommend meetedgar.com. Okay, that was a lot of tools, wasn't it? Let's recap those foundational tools, shall we? Domain name, we talked about where I like to get them, but there's a bunch of different places out there. Of course, the most important part is that you're getting it in a place that you own it. Number 2, of course, is your email address. And everyone needs a professional email address. And of course, I highly recommend that you also have ownership over that. Number 3 was our web hosting. We talked about a good place to get web hosting and the importance of owning your own web hosting, being self-hosted, so you have 100% control over everything that you're doing. Number 4 is our creating graphics with Canva. Canva being my tool of choice for creating easy graphics with a template, or if you're crafty, you can just start from scratch. And in a minute, I want to talk to you just a little bit more about that before we go, although we are running out of time quickly. And then 5, of course, was our social media management or sharing tool. Okay, really quick before we go, I know we're running out of time, but I have a quick tweet for you. Never underestimate the power of the right tool for the job. Over at clararose.com, say hello to me. Okay, really quickly before I run out of time, something I forgot to say about Canva that really I want you to just check out is all of the templates that you see that you load are customizable. So if you drop in a picture, it's going to actually show you the different colors you can change and customize on that. So it might not be the exact right color, but you can fix that. Okay, so I have enough. That's enough for today. I'm going to see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me today. I always appreciate that you show up and spend this time with me. And of course, remember to get out there and build your influence, because influence does matter, my friend. See you next week.